The year was 2847. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 300 years. They were the youngest species in the galaxy. They were also the least respected. The Council had 12 elder species. These aliens had ruled the stars for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. They looked at humanity the way a grown man looks at a small child. They tolerated humans. They did not fear them. Ambassador Elias Vance stood on the balcony of the human embassy on Nexus Prime. This was a neutral world where all species came to talk and make deals. Elias had been a diplomat for 20 years. He knew how to smile when aliens insulted him. He knew how to bow when they demanded respect. He did these things because humanity was weak, or at least, that is what everyone believed. His daughter Maya ran across the garden below. She was 8 years old with brown hair and bright eyes full of wonder. She chased a small flying creature that glowed blue in the evening light. Her laughter rose up to where Elias stood. He smiled. In a galaxy full of politics and lies, Maya was the only pure thing in his life. His wife had died 3 years ago. Now it was just him and his little girl against the universe. That night, everything changed. Elias woke to the sound of breaking glass. He grabbed his weapon and ran to Maya's room. The door was open. The window was shattered. His daughter was gone. For 3 days, Elias searched. He begged the council for help. He screamed at security officers. He offered everything he had for information. The council species watched him with cold eyes. Some seemed amused by his pain. On the 4th day, he learned the truth. The ruling conclave had taken Maya. This was the inner circle of the 3 most powerful council species. The Cathari were insects that stood like men, with hard shells and many eyes. The Vorunai were beings made of living crystal that sang when they spoke. The Thessians were water creatures who lived in special suits filled with their ocean. These 3 ruled the council. They ruled the galaxy. And they believed humans were hiding something. There were rumors that humanity had found ancient technology on a distant colony world. Technology from a species that had died before the council was born. The conclave wanted this technology. They decided to take a hostage to force humans to share their secrets. They took Maya because she was small, because she was weak, because they did not think humans would fight back. For 72 hours, they held her in a Cathari facility. They used machines designed to pull truth from alien minds. These machines were made for adult creatures with tough bodies. They were not made for human children. Maya screamed until her voice broke. She told them she knew nothing because she knew nothing. She was 8 years old. She knew about dolls and games and her father's bedtime stories. She did not know about ancient technology, but the Cathari did not stop. They had become curious. They wanted to see how much pain a human child could feel. They wanted to study her reactions. They took notes while she suffered. When they finished, they dumped her on the steps of the human embassy like garbage. Elias found her there at dawn. She was alive, but her eyes were empty. She looked at her father and did not know him. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The doctors said the neural probes had torn her young mind apart. She would never speak again. She would never recognize her father. She would never be whole. Elias held his broken daughter and something inside him turned to ice. The human government demanded justice. They sent messages to the council filled with anger and grief. They showed evidence of what had been done. They named the ones responsible. The council responded with what they called regret. They offered money as payment for the damage. They said it was unfortunate, but these things happen. They did not apologize. They did not punish anyone. When humans pushed harder, the council reminded them of their place. The Cathari High Queen herself sent a message to Earth. She was a massive creature with 1,000 eyes that gleamed like black jewels. Her voice buzzed like a swarm of angry bees. "You are young," she said. "You are small. You have 1 world while we have 12. You will accept what we offer. You will be grateful we permit you to exist. Do not test our patience, little mammals." On Earth, billions watched this message. They saw their leaders bow their heads. They heard the alien queen dismiss a tortured child as an inconvenience. Something old and dark woke up in the human heart. Fleet Admiral Helena Cross sat alone in her office and watched the broadcast 3 times. She was 60 years old with gray hair and eyes like steel. She had served in the military for 40 years. She had always followed orders. She had always kept the peace. Now she opened her computer and found a file that very few people knew existed. It was called the Prometheus contingency. For 300 years, Humanity had played a role. They pretended to be weak. They pretended to be harmless. They smiled at insults and bowed to aliens who treated them like animals. They did this because they were patient. They did this because they were smart. In secret, far beyond the maps that the Council knew, humanity had been building. Hidden research stations developed weapons that should not exist. Secret shipyards constructed fleets in the darkness between stars. Scientists unlocked secrets of the universe that the elder species had never imagined. The Prometheus weapons could make a planet's core collapse. They could kill a world. Admiral Cross read through the file. She thought about Maya Vance, a little girl who would never laugh again. She thought about the Kethari High Queen and her 1,000 gleaming eyes. She thought about 300 years of insults and disrespect. Then she picked up her communicator and called the president. Ambassador Vance sat beside his daughter's bed in the medical center. Maya stared at the ceiling with empty eyes. Sometimes her hands moved like she was reaching for something that was not there. Sometimes tears rolled down her cheeks, though she made no sound. Elias held her small hand in his. He remembered teaching her to walk. He remembered her first words. He remembered how she used to climb into his bed during thunderstorms because she was scared of the noise. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you." Maya did not respond. She did not even blink. Outside the window, ships moved across the night sky. Human ships, military ships, more than Elias had ever seen gathered in one place. Something was happening. Something big. His communicator buzzed. It was a message from Earth. The government wanted him to return home immediately. They wanted him to speak to the Council of War. Elias looked at his daughter one more time. Then he stood up and walked to the door. He did not know what was coming, but he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you hurt a human child. The elder species had ruled for thousands of years. They had conquered worlds and crushed rebellions. They had never met a species they could not control. They had never truly met humanity. They were about to learn that the quiet ones are often the most dangerous. They were about to learn that patience is not weakness. They were about to learn that humans are very good at love, and they are even better at revenge. President Amara Okonkwo stood before the Council of War in a bunker deep beneath the African continent. She was a tall woman, with kind eyes that had turned hard in the last few days. Around her sat the most powerful humans in existence: admirals, generals, scientists, spies. They had all seen what happened to Maya Vance. They had all heard the Kethari Queen's response. Now they had to decide what to do about it. Admiral Helena Cross stood and walked to the front of the room. A holographic display flickered to life behind her, showing a map of the galaxy. 12 stars glowed red among the billions of white dots. "These are the homeworlds of the Council species," she said. "Each one is sacred to them. Each one holds their history, their culture, their identity. They call them their Earths." The display zoomed in on one world after another. Beautiful planets filled with cities and monuments and billions of lives. "If we fight a normal war, we lose," Cross continued. "Their combined fleets outnumber ours 50 to 1. Their technology is mature. Their soldiers are experienced. We would hurt them badly, but in the end, they would burn Earth to ash." The room was silent. Everyone knew this was true. But 300 years ago, our ancestors made a different plan. The display changed. It showed hidden stations in the empty space between galaxies. It showed shipyards carved into dead moons far from any star. It showed weapons that looked like nightmares given form. "The Prometheus contingency," Cross said. While we smiled and bowed to the Council, we were building in secret. We found precursor technology on colony world Kepler 442b. 50 years after joining the Council. We told no one. We studied it. We improved it. We made it our own. She pressed a button, and a new weapon appeared on screen. It looked simple. Just a small black sphere covered in strange symbols. "This is a Prometheus device. When activated, it creates a chain reaction in a planet's core. The world does not explode. Instead, it slowly dies over 30 standard days. The surface becomes poisonous. The atmosphere burns away. Nothing can stop it once it begins." President Okonkwo leaned forward. "You are suggesting we use these weapons?" "I am suggesting we give them a choice," Cross replied. "Surrender the ones who hurt that little girl. Submit to human justice. Or lose everything they hold sacred." A general stood up. His face was troubled. This is not war. This is extinction. We would be killing trillions of innocents. No, Cross said firmly. We are not monsters. The devices give 30 days warning. Enough time to evacuate. We have secretly prepared new worlds for their populations. We will help them move. We will save their people. But we will kill their planets. Yes, we will kill their Earths. We will take from them everything that makes them who they are. Their history, their monuments, their sacred places. We will leave them alive but homeless. We will make them understand that they crossed a line that should never be crossed. The room erupted in argument. Some called it justice. Others called it madness. Some said humanity would become villains. Others said humanity would finally be respected. Ambassador Elias Vance waited until the noise died down. Then he stood and walked to the front. He looked tired. He looked broken. But his voice was steady. 3 days ago, my daughter recognized me for the first time since they took her. She looked at me and she tried to say, "Daddy." She could not make the sound. She just opened her mouth and cried. He paused to control his emotions. The council hurt her because they wanted information she did not have. When they learned she was useless to them, they did not stop. They kept hurting her because they were curious. They wanted to see how a human child suffered. They took notes. His hands were shaking now. They did this because they do not see us as people. They see us as animals, as insects, as things to be studied and controlled. If we do nothing, every human in this galaxy becomes an acceptable target. Every child, every family, every colony. He looked around the room at faces he had known for years. I do not want revenge for myself. I want safety for every human child who will ever be born. I want the galaxy to know that our children are not theirs to break. President Okonkwo stood. She had made her decision. We will vote. All in favor of the Prometheus contingency? Every hand in the room rose. The preparations began immediately. Across human space, sleeper agents who had waited for generations received activation codes. These were humans who had been born on alien worlds, who had lived their whole lives among the council species. They had families. They had friends. They had built lives that were lies. Now they began to move. Captain Marcus Chen commanded the stealth destroyer Silent Fury. His ship was one of the Black Fleet that the Council did not know existed. It could bend light around itself and become invisible. It could move through space without leaving any trace. He received his orders directly from Admiral Cross. You will be the first, she told him. Your target is the Kithari homeworld. Plant the Prometheus device in their planet's core, then disappear. When all 12 devices are in place, we will send our message. Chen looked at his crew. They were young. They were scared. They were also angry. The Kithari tortured a child, he said to them. An 8-year-old girl. They broke her mind because they were bored. Now we are going to show them what happens when you wake a sleeping giant. The Silent Fury slipped into darkness and began its mission. 1 week before the attack, humanity sent a final message to the Council. Admiral Cross appeared on every screen in the galaxy. Her face was calm. Her voice was cold. This is humanity's final demand. Surrender every individual responsible for the torture of Maya Vance. Submit them to human justice. You have 7 standard days to comply. If you do not, the consequences will be severe. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is your only warning. The Council's response came within hours. The Kethari High Queen laughed. Her 1,000 eyes sparkled with amusement. Her voice dripped with contempt. Little mammals, she said. You threaten us? You are 1 species with 1 world. We are 12 species with 12 worlds and 10,000 colony planets. Our fleets could glass your pathetic Earth before your ships even left port. She leaned closer to the camera. Her mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among her kind. Return to your burrow and be grateful we permit you to exist. Do not speak to us again, or we will teach you a lesson your species will never forget. She did not know that human ships were already in orbit around her world. She did not know that a small black sphere was even now sinking toward her planet's core. She did not know that in 6 days, her world would begin to die. Admiral Cross watched the Queen's response with no expression on her face. Then she sent one final order to her hidden fleets. All ships report ready. Begin final countdown. In 6 days, we teach them that there are some lessons that only need to be taught once. Across the galaxy, in the shadows between stars, humanity's Black Fleet moved into position. 12 ships, 12 worlds, 12 ancient civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for longer than humans had existed. In 6 days, everything would change. The storm was coming, and the galaxy was not ready. The attacks came at the same moment across 12 star systems. Nobody saw them coming. Nobody felt the small black spheres sink through rock and metal to reach the hearts of ancient worlds. The Prometheus devices activated in perfect silence, beginning a chain reaction that could not be stopped. On the Kethari homeworld, the first sign was a deep rumble that shook the great hive cities. Scientists looked at their instruments with confusion. There were no earthquakes scheduled. There were no tests planned. Something was wrong. On the Voronoi crystal planet, the eternal songs of the living mountains suddenly changed key. The crystalline beings stopped their work and listened. They had never heard this sound before. It was the sound of their world beginning to die. On the water world of the Thessians, the currents shifted. The deep ocean temperatures began to rise. The Thessian elders emerged from their underwater cities and looked up at the sky with growing fear. Across all 12 council homeworlds, the same thing happened. The planets were not exploding. They were not burning. They were simply dying. Slowly, painfully, inevitably. Admiral Helena Cross appeared on every communication channel in the galaxy. Her face filled screens on 1,000,000 worlds. Her voice reached trillions of ears. This is Fleet Admiral Helena Cross of the Human Military Command. What you are experiencing right now is not natural. Your homeworlds have been infected with Prometheus devices. In 30 standard days, those worlds will be dead. Nothing can save them. Nothing can stop the process. She paused to let the words sink in. You had 300 years to see us as equals. You chose to see us as prey. You tortured a child to satisfy your curiosity. Now watch your worlds die and understand this truth. Humanity remembers. Humanity repays. The message ended. Across the galaxy, there was silence. Then there was chaos. The council species had 30 days to evacuate billions of citizens from each homeworld. Ships that had been built for war were now needed for rescue. Military officers who had never moved civilians before had to organize the largest evacuation in galactic history. The Kethari High Queen screamed orders at her servants. Her 1,000 eyes were wild with rage and fear. She demanded her fleets attack Earth immediately. She demanded revenge, but her admirals showed her the truth. Their fleets were scattered across the galaxy. Gathering them would take weeks, and they needed every ship for evacuation. We can have revenge later, the Queen's chief advisor told her. First, we must save our people. The Queen wanted to argue, but she looked at the reports from her homeworld. The surface temperature was rising. The air was becoming toxic. In 30 days, nothing would survive. She gave the order to evacuate. While the council scrambled to save their people, human special forces hunted the ones responsible for Maya's torture. Commander Yuki Tanaka led a team of 12 soldiers. They were the best humanity had ever produced. They moved like shadows and killed like lightning. Their targets were the scientists who had performed the experiments on Maya, the guards who had watched and laughed, the officials who had ordered the abduction. The first target was a Kethari scientist named Zix Keth. He had been the lead researcher at the facility where Maya was tortured. He had written papers about human pain responses. He had described Maya's screaming as fascinating. Tanaka found him on a transport ship fleeing his dying world. She walked through the crowded corridors like she belonged there. She found Zix Keth hiding in a cargo hold surrounded by his research notes. "Do you know who I am?" she asked. The scientist's many eyes blinked in confusion. "A human? How did you get here?" "I am Commander Yuki Tanaka. I am here for Maya Vance." Zix Keth tried to run. He did not get far. The execution was broadcast across the galaxy. Tanaka stood over the body and looked directly at the camera. "This is the first. There are 17 more. We will find them all. We will show no mercy. If you hurt our children, there is nowhere in the universe you can hide." One by one, the torturers died. Some were found on evacuating ships. Some were captured in their homes before they could flee. Some tried to fight back. None of them escaped. As the homeworlds died and the guilty were hunted, something unexpected happened. Humanity began to help. Human ships appeared near the evacuation zones, but they did not attack. Instead, they offered assistance. They brought food and medicine. They helped guide refugee ships to new worlds. The council species did not understand. "Why?" a Voronoi elder asked a human captain. "You are destroying our worlds. Why would you help us survive? The captain looked at the elder with sad eyes. We are not killing your people. We are killing your planets. There is a difference. Not, but why spare us at all? Because we are not monsters, the captain said. Your leaders hurt a child. Your people did not. We will not punish the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. The Vorunai elder stared at the human for a long time. In all their thousands of years of history, no species had ever shown them such strange mercy. The human continued speaking. We have prepared new worlds for your people. They are not as beautiful as your home worlds. They are not as ancient, but they are safe. You can rebuild there. You can survive. And in return, you will remember. You will teach your children what happened here. You will make sure that no one ever hurts a human child again. The evacuation continued for weeks. Trillions of refugees fled to new worlds that humanity had secretly prepared over centuries. The council species arrived as refugees on planets given to them by the species they had dismissed as animals. The irony was not lost on anyone. On the 29th day, the Kethari homeworld became uninhabitable. The great hive cities that had stood for 10,000 years crumbled to dust. The sacred breeding grounds where queens had laid eggs since before humans existed turned to poison. The Kethari High Queen stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched her world die. Her 1,000 eyes leaked fluid that might have been tears. How? She whispered. How did they do this? We watched them for 300 years. We saw every ship they built. We monitored every transmission they sent. How did we miss this? Her advisor stood beside her. He was old and had served 5 queens before her. We saw what we wanted to see, he said. We saw a young species that smiled and bowed. We saw weakness. We never considered that the weakness might be an act. 300 years, the queen said. They planned this for 300 years. They are patient creatures, more patient than we understood. The queen watched the last city on her world collapse into molten rock. 10,000 years of history, gone in 30 days. Because her people had hurt one small human child. What do we do now? She asked. The advisor was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, we survive. We rebuild. And we never forget the lesson we learned today. What lesson is that? The advisor turned to face his queen. His eyes were hollow with grief and fear. Never touch their children. Never even think about touching their children. Because the humans are not weak. They are not harmless. They are just very, very patient. And now the entire galaxy knows what happens when their patience runs out. The queen said nothing. There was nothing left to say. Across the galaxy, 12 ancient worlds died. 12 civilizations became homeless refugees. And humanity stood among the stars, watching, waiting, ready to burn anything that threatened what they loved. The message was clear. The lesson was learned. Human children were protected by fire. The Kethari High Queen stood before the gathered leaders of the council species. Her 1,000 eyes burned with fury. Around her sat the representatives of 11 other civilizations. All of them homeless. All of them angry. All of them afraid. We cannot accept this, the queen said. Her voice buzzed through the chamber like a storm of angry insects. We cannot allow these mammals to destroy our worlds and walk away. We must strike back. We must burn Earth as they burned ours. The Vorunai delegate made a sound like cracking ice. And, how do you propose we do that? Our fleets are scattered. Our people are refugees. We barely have enough ships to protect our new colonies. We combine our forces, the queen replied. All 12 species. Every ship we have. We strike at Earth before they can prepare. We end this threat forever. What about their weapons? A Thessian admiral asked. His voice bubbled through his water suit. They have technology we do not understand. They hid it from us for centuries. They used surprise, the queen said. They cannot surprise us again. Their weapons are powerful, but they are few. Our combined fleet will overwhelm them through pure numbers. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted peace. They had lost everything and could not bear to lose more. Others wanted revenge. They had been humiliated and could not accept their defeat. In the end, the vote was close. 7 species agreed to attack. 5 refused. It was enough. 3,000 warships gathered in deep space. It was the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Kethari hive ships that looked like floating mountains of black chitin. Vorunai crystal vessels that sang as they moved through the void. Thessian water carriers that held armies in their liquid cores, and 9 other species, each bringing their best ships, their best weapons, their best warriors. The Queen herself took command. She stood on the bridge of the massive flagship Eternal Hunger and looked at the stars with hatred in her 1,000 eyes. "Today we restore order to the galaxy," she announced to her fleet. "Today we show these humans that there are consequences for their arrogance. Today we burn their single, precious world and scatter their ashes across the void." The fleet jumped into hyperspace. Destination: Saul system. Destination: Earth. Admiral Helena Cross received the warning 18 hours before the enemy arrived. Human spy satellites hidden throughout the galaxy had tracked the fleet's assembly and predicted its course. She stood in the command center beneath Earth's surface and watched the tactical display. 3,000 red dots moving toward the blue marble that was humanity's home. "Status of our defenses?" she asked. "All orbital platforms armed and ready," her aide replied. "Ground-based weapons online. Fleet in position. And the special projects are fully operational." Cross nodded slowly. "Then we are ready. Let them come." The Council fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Saul system. They expected to find a frightened world. They expected weak defenses. They expected easy victory. They found something else entirely. Earth was surrounded by weapons platforms that should not exist. Ships that moved in ways that defied physics. Energy shields that wrapped around the entire planet like a bubble of light. The Queen stared at the display with growing horror. Where did this come from? Our intelligence showed no such defenses. "It appears their deception was deeper than we realized," her advisor said quietly. "No matter. We have 3,000 ships. They have maybe 300. Attack. All ships. Attack." The battle began. The first wave of Council ships charged toward Earth. They fired weapons that had destroyed worlds. Their shots hit the human shields and vanished like drops of water falling into an ocean. Then the humans fired back. Beams of light passed through Council shields like they were not there. Ships that had taken years to build exploded in seconds. The Kethari hive ship Vengeance, a vessel that had crushed rebellions for 1,000 years, was cut in half by a single shot. The Queen could not believe what she was seeing. Impossible. This is impossible. But it was not impossible. It was simply humanity revealed. For 300 years they had hidden their true strength. They had smiled and bowed and pretended to be weak. They had let the Council believe they were superior, all while building weapons that made the Council's technology look like toys. The battle lasted 6 hours. It was not close. Human ships moved through space in strange patterns that enemy targeting systems could not follow. They appeared behind Council formations and disappeared before anyone could shoot back. They fought like ghosts, like shadows, like nightmares given form. Halfway through the battle, Admiral Cross sent a message to the Queen. "Surrender now, and your surviving ships will be spared. Your crews will be treated as prisoners, not enemies. You have 30 seconds to respond." The Queen's pride screamed at her to refuse, but she looked at her tactical display. Half her fleet was already gone. The humans had lost maybe 20 ships. "What are your terms?" she asked, her voice hollow. "Complete surrender. Dissolution of the ruling conclave. Submission to the new galactic order. And the immediate transfer of all remaining guilty parties in Maya Vance's torture." The Queen closed her 1,000 eyes. Everything she had built, everything her species had conquered, gone. Destroyed by creatures they had dismissed as primitives. "The Voronoi and Thessian fleets agree to your terms," Cross continued. "They are standing down. You are the last one fighting, Your Majesty. Make your choice." The Queen looked at her advisor. He said nothing. There was nothing to say. "We surrender," the Queen whispered. The battle ended. In the aftermath, the galaxy transformed. The old council was dissolved. The ruling conclave was abolished. A new assembly formed where every species, large or small, old or young, had an equal voice. Humanity did not claim leadership. They did not demand power. They simply sat among the other species and voted like everyone else. But everyone knew the truth. Humanity was the force that kept the peace. Humanity was the line that could not be crossed. No one would ever challenge them again. Ambassador Elias Vance was given the honor of visiting the captured Kethari High Queen in her cell. She was held on a human station orbiting Mars, guarded by soldiers who never spoke and never slept. The Queen looked smaller than he remembered. Her 1,000 eyes were dull. Her shell had lost its shine. Why have you come? She asked. To understand, Vance replied. I want to know why you did it. Why you hurt my daughter. The queen was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke in a voice that held no pride, no anger, only exhaustion. Because we could. Because we had always done such things to lesser species. Because we never thought there would be consequences. She was 8 years old. I know. She will never fully recover. She will carry scars in her mind forever. I know. The queen looked at the human with something that might have been regret. If I could undo what was done, I would. Not because of what you did to our worlds. Because I have seen now what she suffered. I have watched the recordings. I did not know humans could feel such pain. All beings feel pain, Vance said. We are not so different. No, the queen agreed. We are not. I understand that now. Too late. Vance stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. My people could have killed every one of your citizens. We chose not to. We gave you new worlds. We helped you evacuate. Do you know why? The queen shook her head. Because our children are watching, and we want them to know that strength without mercy is just cruelty. We want them to know that justice is not the same as revenge. He paused. But we also want them to know that there are some things we will never forgive. Some lines that can never be crossed. Hurt our children, and we will burn your worlds. Show us respect, and we will help you build new ones. He left the queen alone in her cell. She sat in silence for hours, thinking about what he had said, thinking about how badly her people had misunderstood these humans. They were not weak. They were not primitive. They were something far more dangerous. They were patient. They were merciful, and they would protect their own with the fury of 1,000 stars. The galaxy had learned this lesson in fire and ash. It would never forget. 5 years had passed since the burning of the 12 worlds. The galaxy was different now. The old powers were gone. The species that had ruled for thousands of years now lived as refugees on planets given to them by humanity. They rebuilt their civilizations slowly, carefully, always aware that they existed because humans had chosen mercy over extinction. A new assembly governed the galaxy. Every species had a voice. Every world had a vote. There were no more masters and slaves, no more powerful and weak. There was only cooperation, watched over by the silent guardians of the human fleet. Some called it peace. Others called it fear. Perhaps it was both. Ambassador Elias Vance had retired from politics. He spent his days on a small farm on New Terra, a planet that humans had terraformed centuries ago as a backup world. The air was clean. The water was pure. The fields stretched to the horizon in waves of golden grain. It was here, in a garden filled with flowers from a dozen worlds, that he sat with his daughter Maya. She was 13 now. Her brown hair had grown long, and she wore it in braids like her mother used to do. Her eyes were still haunted sometimes, shadows of old pain crossing her face without warning. But she could speak now. She could recognize her father. She could smile. The doctors called it a miracle. Human medicine had advanced rapidly in the years since the war. Experimental treatments had rebuilt the pathways in Maya's brain that the Kithari had destroyed. She would never be exactly who she had been before, but she was alive. She was healing. She was loved. Daddy, Maya said, looking at the alien flowers that surrounded them. Why does everyone look at us strangely? When we go to the city, people stare. They whisper. Elias was quiet for a moment. This was the question he had always known would come. He had practiced his answer 1,000 times. Because they are still learning, he said gently. They are learning that humans are very good at love, and very, very good at making sure no one hurts the people they love. Is it because of what happened to me? Elias took his daughter's hand. Yes, sweetheart. What happened to you changed everything. It changed the whole galaxy. Maya frowned. But I do not want to be the reason people are afraid. They are not afraid of you, Elias said. They are afraid of what we showed them we could do. And that fear keeps them from ever hurting anyone, like they hurt you again. Is that a good thing? Elias looked at his daughter. She had suffered more than any child should. She had been broken and put back together. And still she asked if causing fear was good. I do not know, he admitted. I hope so. I hope that the fear becomes respect. I hope that one day, creatures will choose not to hurt each other because it is wrong, not because they are afraid of punishment. But until that day comes, fear will have to do. Maya leaned against her father's shoulder. They watched the twin suns of New Terra sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. "I am glad I can remember you now," Maya said softly. "I am glad I came back." Elias wrapped his arm around her and held her close. Tears rolled down his cheeks, but he was smiling. "So am I, sweetheart. So am I." On Earth, in a park surrounded by monuments to human history, a new structure had been built. It was simple, but powerful. 12 pillars of black stone stood in a circle, each one containing soil from a dead world. The inscription at the center read, "They forgot what we are capable of when our children are threatened. The galaxy will not forget again." People came from all over human space to visit this place. They brought their children. They told them stories of what had happened and why. They made sure that every new generation understood the weight of what humanity had done. Admiral Helena Cross, now 80 years old and long retired, came to the memorial on the 5th anniversary of the burning. She stood among the pillars and remembered the orders she had given, the lives she had ended, the worlds she had killed. She felt no regret. She felt no pride. She felt only the heavy weight of necessary things. A reporter found her there and asked for a statement. Cross turned to face the camera. Her hair was white now. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were still steel, still sharp, still dangerous. "We burned their Earths," she said slowly. "We became monsters in their eyes, but we also became something else. We became the line that cannot be crossed. Some will call us villains, some will call us saviors. We are neither." She paused and looked at the 12 pillars around her. "We are simply human, and we protect our own. That is all we have ever done. That is all we will ever do. The galaxy can love us or hate us for it, but they will never forget what happens when they threaten our children." She walked away from the cameras, disappearing into the crowd like any other old woman. She had said everything that needed to be said. On the new Kethari homeworld, a grandmother told stories to her grandchildren. They gathered around her in the evening light, their small eyes wide with wonder and fear. "Tell us about the old world," the smallest child begged. "Tell us about the great hive cities." The grandmother clicked her mandibles sadly. "The old world is gone, little ones. It died before you were born." "Why? What happened?" The grandmother looked up at the unfamiliar stars. Even after 5 years, she could not get used to this sky. Her old world had different constellations, different moons, different everything. "We made a mistake," she said. "A terrible mistake. We thought we were the masters of the galaxy. We thought we could do whatever we wanted to, whoever we wanted. We forgot that even small creatures can be dangerous when you hurt what they love." "The humans?" an older child asked. "Yes, the humans." The grandmother shuddered slightly. "We took one of their children. We hurt her. We did not think they would fight back. We were wrong." "What happened?" "They burned our world. They burned all 12 home worlds of the Council species. Billions of us fled to new planets that the humans gave us. They could have killed us all. They chose not to." "Why did they spare us?" The grandmother was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Because they are not like us. They are something different. They can be merciful and terrible at the same time. They can save you with one hand, while they destroy everything you love with the other." She gathered her grandchildren close to her. "Remember this lesson, little ones. Remember it forever. Never mistake kindness for weakness. Never think that because someone smiles, they cannot burn worlds. And never, ever, harm a human child." "Why not?" The grandmother looked at her grandchildren with all her eyes. They were so young, so innocent. They would never know the old world except in stories. They would never understand what had been lost. "Because the humans are very good at love," she said. "They are better at love than any species in the galaxy. They love their children more than they love themselves, more than they love peace, more than they love mercy." She pointed at the sky. "Somewhere up there, human ships are watching us. They are always watching. They protected us when we fled our dying world. They protect us still, but they also remember what we did. They will remember forever." "Will they hurt us?" "Not if we are good, not if we are kind, not if we never threaten what they love." The grandmother stood and led her grandchildren toward home. "The humans taught us a lesson 5 years ago, a lesson written in fire and ash and the death of worlds. We must never forget it." "What lesson?" "Grandmother." The old Kethari stopped walking. She looked at the stars one last time. at the unfamiliar patterns that marked her exile from everything she had known, that some creatures seem weak because they choose to be gentle, that some smiles hide teeth sharp enough to tear the universe apart, that humanity is patient and kind and merciful right up until the moment you touch their children. She looked down at her grandchildren with ancient, tired eyes. Then they are none of those things. Then they are fire. Then they are vengeance. Then they are the end of everything you ever loved. Above them, invisible in the night sky, a human patrol ship passed silently. Its crew watched the planet below with eyes that saw everything. They were guardians. They were protectors. They were the promise that humanity had made to itself and to the galaxy. Never again. Never again would any species have the power to hurt without consequence. Never again would the strong prey on the weak without fear. Never again would a child suffer as Maya Vance had suffered. The galaxy had changed. The old order was dead, and humanity stood watch over the new dawn, patient and powerful and ready to burn anything that threatened what they loved. This was their promise. This was their purpose. This was what it meant to be human.